Proper Ugandan, Proper Ugandan, Proper Ugandan, Proper Ugandan Podcast, Proper Ugandan, Proper Ugandan, Proper Ugandan, Proper Ugandan Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Proper Ugandan Podcast with Kalungi and the K. And today we've got another special guest. My special guest is someone I've been looking forward to speaking to ever since I jumped and dived into her DMs. And speaking of diving and submerging myself in water, we're going to talk about an incredible poem she wrote that is very topical, and it links perfectly with my submersion of water metaphor. So the person I'm speaking to today is poet Vanessa Kisuule. Now, please let me know. Did I pronounce that right?
Wow.
Did I pronounce that properly? Did I say that properly?
I've not heard my surname pronounced like that in a long time. I'll tell you a funny story about it, and it's applicable to this podcast.
Did I say it wrong?
No, you said it how people in Uganda would say it, right? But I learned very late that was the proper pronunciation of my surname, right? I'd been in England 13 years before I went to Uganda to visit, and they would all say Kisuule, and I was like, what the fuck? And they were like, that's how you pronounce it. And by that point, I was so accustomed to my name being Kisuule, and I was like, well, I don't really want to have the headache of constantly correcting people, because obviously that's so counter to how the British not etymology. What's the word I'm looking for? About how words sound. It's not etymology because that's phonetics. Yes, exactly. It goes against the phonetics, and usually I'm a big one for like using your full name and insisting on the proper pronunciation and not anglicizing it or whatever. But because for myself I was Kisuule and I'd been that for 13 years, it was too much of a scramble of my brain to now suddenly be calling myself Kisuule. So that is the first time since I went back again when I was 18 that I have heard someone pronounce it Kisuule. So that was deep. You caught me off guard there. That's powerful.
Well, listen, no. Don't like. I'm honored, and also I'm flattered that you've complimented my pronunciation of your name, because I sometimes make mistakes in pronunciation of Ugandan names, and my mom has to tell me, no, that's not the right way of saying it, because depending on the elongation of the word or the stress, you might end up saying the wrong thing. So I had a friend, and the last name is, I think, Nanyonjo, but I think I used to say it as Nanyonjo, and it's such it's the other way around, and such a tiny kind of like difference, but Ugandans can go, no, that's not how you say it. So, I'm glad you complimented me on that. But Vanessa, listen, the reason I wanted to talk to you is because we obviously were going through really, you could say it's a revolution, because there is some sort of change that's on its way. And I saw this poem that you wrote and you performed on Twitter. But before we get to that, I want to ask you the question that I always ask all my guests. When was the first or last time that you felt like a proper Ugandan? First or last?
I have to level with you. I don't know whether I've ever felt like a proper Ugandan. I don't think I've ever felt like that. And that's really sad to say. But I don't feel like I can ever claim that properly. It's something I think you're going to ask me later, but, I don't speak the language. I never really liked the food. Like, I'm a real shame on my ancestors. I really, really am.
No, don't be ashamed.
The only food I liked was chapati, and that's not even Ugandan. That's an Indian import, right? So obviously a very popular food in Uganda, but it was introduced by the Indian population. So the binyewa, the matoke, like all of that, I wasn't on it. I wasn't vibing. My mum would always be like, you have to sit at that table until it's finished, and I would just sit there for what felt like hours, and I was not having it. I was not eating it. I might feel differently now as an adult, because obviously when you're a kid, you can be a very fussy eater. So maybe if I tried it now, I'd feel different. But am I proper Ugandan? I don't know about that. You know, it pains me to say that, but I don't know what claim I could possibly have to it. You know?
Well, you see, I would have to. I hear that. I guess actually, I want to know why. Why didn't you? I guess why didn't you feel that like you had that connection, and why is it those two things of not being able to speak a Ugandan language and also not being a fan of the food? Why is it that those are the two kind of like things that people need to feel in order to feel Ugandan? Why do you feel that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I guess, you know, when you think about your culture or you think about, you know, a sense of belonging, I think the words that come out of your mouth and the food that you eat, those are things that you are going to be coming up against every day, right? And I suppose those are two of the things that people would say make them feel most like insert nationality here, right? And of course you're right, it's so much deeper than that. And you know, at the end of the day, like I'm born of two Ugandan parents. It doesn't get more Ugandan than that. But you know, when it comes to my everyday, when it comes to like, you know, am I listening to the music? Am I eating the food? Am I talking to fellow Ugandans? Like, you know, other than my parents and a cousin of mine, and you know, obviously this is due to the fact that there's not a lot of us in this country. But yeah, like I don't really feel like I'm immersed in the culture in a meaningful way, and that might be because I'm not making enough effort to be, and that's why I was really intrigued by this podcast. I mean, what the little thing that does make me feel like maybe I'm not a complete lost cause is I can spot sometimes, obviously by surnames. A lot of the time I'll see a certain surname, I'm like 80% sure that's a Ugandan surname, or just something in the face. You know, and it was something my mum could always do, and I always found it so cringe when I was young. She would strut up to people in the street and start talking to them, and I was like, how do you even know? Like, I was like I was like amazed, but also cringed out. I was like, what is she doing, just strutting up to strangers? But obviously, it's so amazing.
Did that to me. She kind of did that to me when she saw my name you tweeted me once many years back, and apparently she saw my name in the paper somewhere, and she was like, hey, that guy's Ugandan. And you tweeted me that. Yeah. It is a thing that some people can do. Like, I can do it to a certain degree. Like, I can see people's faces and even the way they're walking. You know, if they're like, I guess, new arrivals, you know, you can usually tell. And,
what's the new arrival walk like? I want you to break that down for me.
Well, I mean, because in Uganda, right, people walk at a particular pace. They don't walk too fast because they're like, where are you running from? What are you running from? Why are you walking so fast? You know, because it gets so hot as well, so people don't want to expend too much energy. And you can tell, you know, there's just a pace where it's not a London pace. It's not, you know, a metropolitan kind of pace. Even in Kampala. But
is that specific to Ugandans, or is that Africans in general?
Yeah, it could be specific to Africans, but I guess maybe it's the walk coupled with maybe the look. You know, that you put that together, then you go, oh, okay, that's a Ugandan. I've seen that with a few people go, oh, I have a feeling this person's Ugandan, and I've been right sometimes. But so that's really interesting. I would have to say that even though you may not speak the language or, you know, be a fan of the food, I think you are Ugandan. You do represent, you know, a part of your Ugandan culture. I mean, you've got your last name. That's an indicator already to us people who might not know you, or might not know the fact that you speak Luganda or don't like the food. We go, oh, that's a Ugandan right there. You know? Your name is traveling. It's moving all over the world, across the globe right now. And I wanted to talk to you about that. In particular, in regards to your poem, Hollow. So, can you just tell anyone who isn't, I guess, familiar with that, what the inspiration and the impetus was for writing and performing that piece?
So how long ago now will it have been? It was on the 7th of June, so a couple of weeks ago now. We had a Black Lives Matter march here in the city centre of Bristol, and I actually didn't attend because I felt that it was the best thing to do to not be a part of any potential spreading of COVID and knowing how it's affecting our communities disproportionately. So I, you know, decided to stay at home. Little did I know that history was going to happen. So I'm feeling a type of way about that. But anyway, we've had a statue of you know, one of the most notorious slave traders called Edward Colston in our city for, that statue was there for almost 200 years. And we've got schools named after him, a street named after him, up until recently, a very prominent concert hall. So his name is everywhere. And there's been a lot of contention about this statue, many protests, many petitions, for decades. And, there's been lots of conversation and lots of sort of lip service to the idea of it going down, but it was never happening. And then I think there's the sweep of this particular moment we're in politically. The statue just got pulled down. I'm still aghast. That's probably no. It's just aghast implies that I feel negatively about it, but like I'm still in awe. I'm still in shock about the fact that it came down the way it did. But yeah, that happened, and then I wrote a poem in response because I was just so moved and excited, and it felt right to express it, and also because I'm the city poet. Well, I'll be handing over that role very soon because I've had it for 2 years, so there's going to be a new one now. But at the time, I was still official city poet, so I was like, well, what better time to speak to a moment than this? So yeah, that's how the poem came about, and then I posted it on Twitter, and yeah, the response has been really, really positive. People are really resonating with it, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with the writing, which is important. I didn't want sentiment to surpass the quality of the writing, but also I feel like it really captured a sentiment that it seems to be in the air right now all over the world.
One of the I guess the phrases, or one of the moments in that poem that I guess was the biggest standout was I'm paraphrasing, but you kind of wrote about how surprised you were at how hollow the statue was, and I think you named your piece Hollow, and you used to walk. You mentioned in this article, the New Yorker, where you were interviewed. You mentioned how you used to walk past it and look at it and go, "Wow, he must be made of like strong metal. He can never be toppled." I'm actually hearing you say that, and also reading it written down in the New Yorker, I thought that is a perfect metaphor of how we view white supremacy and how we view people in power. We look at them and go, "Oh my God, you can never be toppled. You're like the strongest, human being, or strongest, I guess, system that cannot be destroyed." But actually, with the will and the might of the people, that statue, and as well as white supremacy, eventually can and will be toppled. And that was such an incredible piece. And I was like, wow, we never think of that. You see the statues that fall. You see that statue, the Colston statue, and you go, wait, is that it? It bounced a little bit.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? He bounced, he quivered.
I thought he was gonna be like Gudum, and he was gonna fall through the earth, and they're gonna have to have to drill and take the statue out. But
they really did a cheap job. They did a cheap job. They were like, you know what? We're not trying to do no like. It's like when you get a gold necklace and you scrape it a little bit, and underneath you just see some cheap bronze situation, and it was sold to you as solid gold. But when you do a bit of investigating, and you're totally right. I feel like it's such a fitting metaphor for how easily we can buy into the smokescreen of people who are supposedly superior, supposedly more intelligent, supposedly more equipped to lead us, right? And I used the example in that interview, which didn't make the piece, of I went to university and school with a lot of self-important white boys, right, who could speak a certain way and knew how to demonstrate a particular type of intelligence that we tend to value over other kinds. And because of the indoctrination of my education, I thought that, these guys are the smart ones. I might be a bit funny and a bit like creative and, all of these lesser qualities, but I'm not really smart like these guys because they can quote stats and they've got all this vocabulary. And I really, really felt like their intelligence was immovable, immutable, the most superior kind. And if anything, I had to either like stay in my place or assimilate to that type of intelligence in order to be respected, right? But what you have to do is you have to call the bluff of that whole thing. And what I love is I love to call the bluff of middle-class white men. And it's very easy. And they're like that statue. When you refuse to pander to this dynamic of, oh, you're the smart one and I'm the little minion over here, the whole thing crumbles. The only way that it can work is we have to like both contribute to the fallacy, right? And I refuse, because a lot of these boys, I've realized in hindsight, they were not smart. They were not smart. They knew the system. They knew how to talk to seem intelligent. But actually, when you scratch the surface, or when you poke the thing, it's hollow. So yeah, it feels like it works on many levels as a metaphor.
Yeah. No. I agree with you completely, man. Because I went to drama school, and I just graduated 2 years ago, or last year, and I was around, that kind of wrong and strong mentality, which was like one of their phrases. Their big phrases, the catchphrases were just wrong and strong, but we fall for that. We fall for that, and again, you end up kind of questioning your own abilities and your own intelligence, because I guess it's not worded in a way that is perceived to be intelligent, and they look at you and go, that I wouldn't have articulated it like that. And in fact, I think they even would pick up on the fact that I articulated myself differently, or if I did say something that met or matched their way of articulation, then they would kind of look at me aghast and go, oh my God, wow. And they'll come, and that's when they bring out phrases like, so eloquent, so articulate. But that's because I managed to, clock the game they were playing, and, I briefly, kind of exhibited their kind of intelligence. But really and truly, at the end of the day, a lot of times they were just talking a lot of nonsense. But I want to kind of like know why poetry, because obviously we know our Ugandan parents, that's not a thing that
you can't be asking me questions. You can't be asking me questions like that. I haven't got 2 hours, and I know that you haven't got 2 hours.
Okay, all right. Give us the distilled version. Give us the
why poetry
version of it.
Why not? Yeah, why not in it? Why not?
I mean, of course, why not? But I know why you would want to do poetry, but I know I jumped into acting, and it's not something my parents would have wanted me to do. But like, was that something that immediately you say, hey, mom, dad, I'm gonna be a poet? Yeah. And they were like, yes, Vanessa, again, don't call it poetry.
I'm lucky, like my parents are never, I would never say that they are, I mean, I don't think they quite understand it. And I don't mean that they're not intelligent enough to understand it. I just mean that it's not their world. They don't really, it's not something that they understand necessarily. So they're not like cheerleaders per se. But I always say this, within the context of who they are and where they come from, they're as supportive as they can be. And I don't take that for granted, because I know that lots of other second-gen kids were just forced to study law or forced to study medicine. Like, no, my parents never made me do anything I didn't want to do in that regard. They may not have been super excited or gassed for me to be pursuing the creative arts, but they let me get on with my thing. And that in its own way is a form of cheerleading, And I can't say fairer than that. I think the older you get and the more you realize that your parents are just human beings, and, they're trying their best, and they're trying to not, and particularly when they're immigrants, they're trying their best to not only raise a child, they're trying to acclimatize to this environment that was never their home. They're having to make all kinds of sacrifices so that you can be indulgent enough to even consider a job in the arts. So when I think about it that way, I'm like, you know what? I don't need them to be at every gig with a "We Love Vanessa" banner. Like, it's cool, They let me get on with my thing, and that's all I could ever ask of them, really, because I know that a lot of second gen kids can't say the same. Like, their parents were just not having it, and we all know those stories. So yeah, it was cool.
That's okay. That's good. That's good to know, at least, that you had. That's, I guess, they kind of gave you the freedom to do what you wanted. Because I know, sometimes it can be difficult or challenging to get your parents to kind of understand, that there are other ways to kind of, I guess, I don't know, make money that isn't necessarily the traditional route of being a doctor or being a lawyer. But yeah, that's really good to know. So you moved from, did you move from London to Bristol to go uni, or were you always a Bristolian?
No, I lived in Kent.
That's it, Kent. Okay. All right. So why choose Bristol? Is that the uni that had the best course?
It was it has a good English course. It was the only uni that I visited. It was a bit of a scattergun vibe. I applied for some unis that I was aware had pretty good English courses. I went to a very competitive secondary school. Well, I went to a few secondary schools, but the one that I did my international baccalaureate at is a very academic private school. And the rate of Oxbridge, people that ended up at Oxbridge or Ivy League, very high, right? So compared to my fellow alumni, I'm slumming it, even though Bristol University is a red brick university. It definitely wasn't that impressive compared to a lot of my peers at the time. But I came to Bristol. I liked the vibe. And I didn't at the time arrange to go to any other open days. So I was just like, cool, I'll just go with the one that I liked the vibe of. I probably should have thought about it more, but sometimes you can overthink these things as well, isn't it? So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I interviewed another Ugandan who went to private school, and yeah, she talked about that being an interesting experience for her. But how did you find it? No, not Babi. No. There's an episode that hasn't come out yet. But
okay.
Yeah, her name is Natasha Avita. But yeah, she talked about it being an interesting experience for her. And I know you alluded towards it, when you talked about how you were around these, I guess, these highfalutin white males who were kind of they would pontificate for days. Apart from that, what else did you find a big challenge of you being a black person in these private schools?
It's complicated. I think when you are thrust into that environment at such a young age, I think, everybody's mind is different. Maybe some people would have struggled more, but me, for whatever reason, I have a high tolerance for being the odd one out. I'm very used to having to assimilate to environments in which I'm the odd one out for whatever reason very quickly. So I don't even realize, up until I left university, I didn't even think about the fact that I was often the only black person in a room. I think when my mum first took me out of state school and into a private school, I was very aware of it. And then I forgot about it very quickly. And then that was my whole childhood, and I just didn't think about it. Because when you're a child, you take things as for what they are. You don't have the language or the sort of sophistication of thought to really process what's going on. You're just like, oh, okay, well, this is life, I guess. Only now as an adult do I understand how unique that experience is, how potentially traumatic that experience is. I didn't find it traumatic. I had a pretty good time. I did well in school. I always had friends. There's lots of things that niggled that, again, I didn't have the language for at the time, that I now look back and I'm like, okay, well, that was a microaggression, or, oh, that was what was going on there. But I tended to brush all that sort of thing off. I never really felt held back or marginalized in profound ways. But that's not to say that is the norm. I hear a lot of stories from other people who went to private school, who really struggled and really felt like the odd one out. So I think I'm a particular type of way. You could just put me anywhere. If anything, when I was younger, I was very nervous to be around other black people because I felt like they were going to rinse me for liking books and rock music. And sounding posh, all that bounty complex stuff, which I try not to labor too much these days because it sounds a little bit Donald Glover, I was the nerdy black kid and none of the black people like me, and it can kind of inch into a little bit of superiority, I'm better than these other blacks, and that's not what I'm trying to imply at all. But definitely I felt like that when I was younger, the idea of going to London and being surrounded by young black people that had grown up in London and knowing that I was going to be different made me very nervous because I knew how to behave around posh white people. I'd been around them for so long that felt normal to me. So yeah, that is it's a weird time to look back on,
Yeah. You know what? That's really good. Good kind of like topic of discussion you bring up, like about feeling nervous around, other Black people if you kind of like not perceived to be, I guess, the typical Black person, because I think a lot of people feel like that, and others find a way to, I guess, I don't know, put up an armor through code switching and doing particular things that make them not stand out. Like if you are someone who's, I guess, spent a lot of time around posh people and you move to London, I guess you start to kind of like code switch immediately to let people know, hey, I'm one of you guys. I listen to grime. I know who Kendrick Lamar is, and so on and so forth. And then it's a similar thing. I felt a similar thing, but just more for being a new arrival, because I was born in Uganda, and I came here when I was 10. So I never really saw myself as fresh. I never saw myself as, I guess, as an Af, as people used to say back in the days. So being around...
Wait, which one? Ass?
Yeah, Af.
What does that stand for?
It's like an Af. It's like it stands for, I guess, an African, but it was a way to make it a derogatory term. It's a derogatory term for an African, like an Af.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry, people used to say that.
Yeah, people used to say that in school days, and
wow.
And to kind of, I guess, make myself not stand out, I felt like I needed to pick up the London accent. I felt like I needed to, be up to date with the latest grime music, be up to date with everything, watch all the right shows, just to make sure I didn't stand out. And that's something I've only really recent years I've just become really just proud of just being born in Uganda, and yeah, it's really interesting.
Do you not think that's easier now because we're having this renaissance of Pan-Africanism? Like when I was, when I was young, like it wasn't cool to wear your natural hair. You definitely didn't wear traditional fabrics, like none of this shit. Like that was not cool. Now it's cool, so I feel like it's, and certainly this monopoly that, Jamaicans and West Indians had on cool, like people used to be really ashamed of being African, people used to beg it and pretend that they were Jamaican, right? When they were Ghanaian or Nigerian or something else, right? So I feel like it's easier to wear it now. Like, I find myself rocking certain things and I'm like, is this because, I'm grown and I'm more comfortable with myself and I wear what I like? Or is it because I implicitly feel a sense of permission knowing that, kente fabrics and other sort of African style fabrics are like generally in fashion, and that makes me feel a little bit ashamed really that it took the needle shifting in general mainstream culture for me to be able to embrace certain things. Certainly I was wearing my hair natural long before that became a freaking movement, and the movement kind of was the best and worst thing to ever happen for natural hair, but that's another conversation. But yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier to claim Africanness now, I think, than it ever was. It's got cool points, Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I never stopped being, Ugandan. I never stopped being African. I couldn't hide the fact that I had a Ugandan accent, even though I might have tried. But you're definitely right. I think I feel more confident and more comfortable that, the people that I might have worried were going to make fun of me being African, they themselves are embracing, African culture. So I don't really have that worry where, I'm going to mispronounce a word or whatever. I might even do it on purpose. There are people that do it on purpose now, So it is the space is a lot safer now to be African, and it's acceptable now. And you're right, that shifting of the needle has made it a lot easier. But yeah, that's really interesting. You said the whole natural hair movement, and I only asked you this because I'm writing a play about natural hair and the politics behind it, and it's not in any way me trying to kind of dig for whatever little viral moment, but you said it could be the worst thing that's happened to, I don't quite remember how you phrased it.
So hang on. So how come you're writing about that? What's your angle? What's your personal kind of connection with that as a conversation?
Yeah. Well, my angle to that is the fact that I was dating a woman who had natural hair. She had locks, and I always found it interesting that I couldn't really talk about her hair. I couldn't talk about, it was almost like it was a separate thing. Like, this is my thing, and you guys deal with it yourself. I couldn't even say that I liked, not necessarily that I liked her hair, but I couldn't have any opinions about, black hair. And I remember even my little sister telling me once, like, why are you so obsessed with that? What's that got to do with you? So I wanted to do a play that that touched on that. Like, why is it so, first of all, why is it so political to have your natural hair in the workplace? But why is it that males and females, at least black males and females, or black men and women, can't have this honest conversation about hair? Because at the end of the day, there are black dudes that do, straighten their hair. There are black dudes that do, are involved in the black women hair movement. So why couldn't we have
black men have never straightened their hair out of pressure. They might do that because they feel like doing that, but it's coming from a very different place. Do you know what I mean? Like, the texture of Afro hair on a man's head is nowhere near as politicized. I'm not saying that, like, there isn't still the same stigma in terms of, like, how we look at black features through a Western lens, but it's not the same thing. And the reason why we are so cagey about having these conversations with white people and even black men who in theory have the same hair on their heads as us is because we're just so used to your unsolicited opinions. You know what I mean? And, like, we're finally at a time, I feel, collectively, where we're like, we're just going to do what we want with our hair, and you lot aren't about to police it, because, we've had enough of the hoteps telling us, oh, don't be wearing your weave, don't be doing this, don't be doing that, you should be keeping it natural, otherwise you don't respect yourself. Or similarly, men that only want to date girls that have, that mixed race hair, or girls who, have the 22-inch weave or whatever. It's like, everywhere we go, we can't fucking move for your opinions. And it means that sometimes we end up shutting down the people that actually love us and just want to have a nice conversation. But you have to understand that we're actually tired, and we just want to do what we want and not have a constant circus of opinion following us. That's what that's about. And I'm the same. If I'm dating someone, I'm like, you need to just keep your opinions on my hair to yourself, for real. Like, even if you're, like, complimenting me or this or that, I'm like, do you know what? I just don't even know whether I want to hear that. And that's not rational at all. And I imagine it's so frustrating on your end, because if you're in a relationship with someone, all these aspects of their self you want to be able to, like, share. But we're just tired. We're tired of everyone having something to say about what we do with our hair. So that's where that comes from. Maybe I can't speak for that person, but.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It definitely did come from that. I think that was her reason for, I guess, not wanting me to chip in and have that discussion. But I guess I'll ask you this: that you said that black women have straightened their hair because of the pressure, but hasn't some of that pressure come from us as black men? And with us stepping in and saying, actually, your natural hair does look good, and and me kind of like me celebrating that, isn't that helping kind of take off that pressure that has been there for centuries? If that there are groups of men, black men, who do appreciate that style of hair.
Yeah, for sure. But then, I guess it's difficult. Like, I'm similar with makeup. Like, no matter what a guy says he prefers, it always it always puts pressure on you to, like, not do the opposite. So you can come along and be like, I love your natural hair and it's great and, like, blah blah blah. But then I'm gonna be sweating because I feel like doing a weave one time. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just
I do. And that's some of the stuff I talk about in the play as well. It's exactly that. The unsolicited. It started off actually as a short play. It was a dude and a lady in the park, and the guy gives unsolicited hair opinion. So you're absolutely right, and it's a really, again, a polarizing topic that I just wanted to dive in and kind of write about it and see the kind of discussions and see why do hoteps feel the need to jump in and, say what they want to say about black women's hair. And also vice versa, for you to be able to tell me that reason you told me why you don't want to hear anyone's opinion, whether it's a black man or a white man. So yeah, the one thing I do want to say though, and this is probably me digging myself deeper, but like there are black men back in the days in the 60s, like, James Brown and Nat King Cole and even Malcolm X, who did straighten their hair. Now, albeit it might have been for different reasons, but they too felt pressured to, take the kink out of their hair. And granted, again, they were in different positions. Yeah.
You make a good point. Michael Jackson, all them man there with their curly perms. It's true. It's
Prince
true.
And that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But if anything, I mean, I'm just gonna like mix it up even a bit more. Like a lot of these men that you're talking about, maybe not Nat King Cole, but certainly like Prince, James Brown. There's a gender bendery kind of like nod to effeminate, like there's a playfulness there in the fact that a guy would not only straighten his hair but put it in all these elaborate, like James Brown's perm, like it wasn't just a perm, like man had some curls in the back and this and that, and
anti-perms.
Yeah, and I feel like there's something there that is actually quite subversive. I don't think it's about fitting in. I think it's about being a bit like, oh, look at me with my head of curls. But no, I agree with you. Like I would never imply that men don't. But I guess it's just like anything else. Like men certainly feel pressure to look a certain way in for all types of reasons, and those ways are different according to different types of men, but the pressure is just not the same. The pressure is just not the same, because your sense of worth inevitably as people is not as centered on like whether people find you visually appealing or not in the same way as it is for us. But yeah, look, I told you, wait, hold on, I told you half an hour, and it's been many minutes. So, and you've got a lot of questions that you emailed me that you've not, you've got time for one more, or we can do it in 2 parts.
You know what? Those questions actually, I need to update that, because those are just kind of like, if the conversation isn't going anywhere, I can dive into that. But this conversation is going places that I don't need to. But you know what? I respect your time, and the weather's looking beautiful, and I'm sweating here. I'm sweating buckets. So I'm gonna move on to quickly, before we move on to the last segment, I'm going to remind people that this episode of the Proper Ugandan Podcast is sponsored by KALUNGEM. KALUNGEM is my clothing line that I started, and I wanted to let people know that if you want to feel like royalty and you already have that natural regal aura about you, just remember you get that by being above cool. So be above cool, and if anyone brings you that wahala, that nonsense, just KALUNGEM. So check out my Instagram at KALUNGEM, KALUNGEM clothing, or just go to kalungi.co.uk, where you'll be able to find a link to the site and get yourself a nice array of clothing. So this is going to be the final segment, Vanessa, and this one is fun.
Sorry, I'm really sorry. I do think I actually have to go, because I've just realized I'm on 3%.
Okay. No worries, no worries.
But we can do a second portion tomorrow if you want. I know that it might mess up the flow, but like maybe you can edit it so that you can piece it together.
No worries. Okay. All right, but thank you so much for your time, yeah?
All right, no worries. Holler at me tomorrow and we can record the second bit. All right.
Okay, we'll do. All right, speak soon. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Can I reiterate, because I know we're going to get lost in the sauce, that we keep this to half an hour, because I've got a schedule to keep on. But like, I only say that because I know that we'll get into it and 2 hours will go by and but
No, don't worry at all. This time I'll make sure we don't. And actually, this last little section is a quiz, and we can like lead into the quiz and finish off what we're talking about. But yeah, it's just like a fun Proper Ugandan quiz where we test your knowledge on Ugandan.
I'm gonna fail so hard. I'm embarrassed.
Listen, let me tell you something. Even me, like a lot of this stuff, I'm not gonna lie, I am cheating, so I'm Googling like facts and stuff.
Okay.
And there are some people who spent time in Uganda and still couldn't get everything right. So
well, it's a lot like the British citizenship test, right? Like this test that people are supposed to take to prove that they are, properly assimilated here. Most people who are British born couldn't take that test and pass it,
Exactly.
I like that, right?
Yeah, exactly like that. Only this one, you won't be deported if you fail. So. or will you? You never know.
Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that. Holy shit.
Yeah. But yeah, so how's your day been? How's your day been so far?
Yeah, good. I've just been hanging out in the park with a friend. Had some Zoom meetings with various people, and one of those ones that's been very bitty. Like I'm trying to write every day towards a project I'm doing. I've not done that writing yet, so that's why I need to be strict with my time. Even though I've got 3 cans of G&T in me, I'm like, no, I got to get my writing done. I've still got to do some sort of exercise, some sort of yoga or something before I start to unwind for the day. So yeah, but it's been nice. How about your day?
Yeah, mine's been all right. Mine's been good. I try to get the exercise done early in the morning. Early, like around 11 or midday. Yeah, I try to, because I know if I do it in the evening, I just might never get to do it. So
yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's been good. I am starting to get impatient with this lockdown, though. Like, I'm getting tired of it. I just want it to end. I just want to get back to working, I
mean, I guess it's difficult for actors, right? Whereas obviously there's a lot of people that feel like the lockdown is effectively over. They've been called back into work, they're going out in parks and they're going to see their friends. For a lot of people, it is effectively over, but I guess it depends how you perceive the loosening of the lockdown rules. But do you feel like everything's still very much on hold for you?
Yeah, it is, for actors, like theatre can't really start again in the way that is beneficial for us as performers.
Yeah.
The film industry, there are a few projects filming, but like I said before, earlier on in the lockdown, they're going to be prioritizing, the big name projects because they want to, get that out of the way. Exactly, make money. So yeah, so it's not really. It feels like it's easing, but at the same time, I'm probably not going to get work until 2021, if I'm being honest. But it is what it is. Yeah, it is very bleak. But let's talk about something a little less bleak, or even not bleak at all. Like the first poem that I saw of yours, which is, I think you're probably maybe one of your most popular ones, was it the Take Up Space poem? That's the first time I was introduced to your work. Why do you hate it? I would have thought that would have been like, why do you hate it?
I think every artist hates the thing that they made that is like generally the most popular. It's like the Radiohead mentality. We don't perform Creep anymore. I don't know. I don't vibe. Like I stand by the sentiment of it, but I guess as a piece of writing, I don't love it. But like this is often the case. You'll write something quite flippantly. You're just like, yeah, whatever, you put it out into one, people respond really strongly, and then you make something else that you really believe in, you really put your energy into the craft and trying to write something interesting and challenging and unique, and then crickets. I think that's quite common for us artists. And I don't want to undermine anyone who enjoys that piece, and I liked it at the time, but like I wrote that quite a while ago. I've moved on as a writer, so I'm not really on it like that. But that piece got me a lot of, I probably wouldn't be where I am as far as my leverage, to be booked for gigs or this or that or the other without that piece. So I would never erase it from my oeuvre, but would I don't ever perform it, and would I consider it one of the better pieces I've written? No, definitely not.
Okay. And you see, with your Bristol City Poet Award, or I don't know how to describe it, but I guess you're the City Poet of Bristol. How did that come about, and like what does it entail, or what did it entail?
Well, you just apply for it, I guess, like any job. And what it entails is quite flexible, which is really nice. The council are really open to the person who's in the role giving their own interpretation of what they want to bring to it, and the themes or ideas they want to focus on. They have certain commissions and poems that they want over the 2 years, but beyond that, the role is there to do what you want with, which is really exciting. A little bit daunting sometimes, because as much as we want freedom, sometimes freedom can be overwhelming, but it is really nice to not feel dictated to. There was plenty of space to do things that felt natural and organic to me as a writer within the role.
Were there like certain, I don't know, subject matters that they said, oh, stay away from that, or something that no, you can say whatever you wanted?
I mean, I'm sure that they're mindful of the type of poet they would appoint, and they wouldn't pick someone that they know tends to write about certain things that they feel are incompatible with their ethics or their aims as a city council or whatever else. So I feel like they eliminate any tensions of that nature in the appointment. I mean, I never felt censored, but then I don't think there's anything that I would say that would warrant that kind of conversation of like, oh, we're not too sure that you should say that, or we're not happy with that. And I don't believe in controversy or being contrarian for its own sake. Like, certainly I'm not gonna pander to anyone or be muzzled, but also I'm not someone who gets my kicks out of saying controversial or extreme things just to get a reaction out of people. Like, I would only ever do that if that's genuinely how I feel. And you know, I've been at liberty to criticize issues in the city, and they don't want someone to just, you know, list off a bunch of things that are good about Bristol or essentially write a bunch of propaganda for the city council. That's not what the role is for. You know, they've got people whose job it is to make everything sound shiny. In theory, they hire a poet to speak to all of the aspects of the city. So yeah, I've never felt censored, but maybe another poet might feel differently, but that was me.
Like for me with my music, or even to a certain extent with my writing, I try to reflect a little bit of like my Ugandan identity in there as much as possible. Do you ever, like, when you write your work, at least your latest work, do you ever like feel that, oh, I need to let people know that, hey, I'm Ugandan as well?
Well, like I told you, I don't really feel like I can own that in the same way that you can. Like, you lived there until you were 10. You have roots in that place that I don't have. You speak the language, I don't. Like, I don't feel comfortable to claim that. I'm not trying to hide it, and I'm proud of it, but also like, I don't feel like I know Uganda like that. You know, when I visited, it was in a very particular context. It wasn't for very long. You know, I never felt like I could ever fit in there. You know, I've lived in this country too long, for better or for worse, you know. So, you know, when Uganda crops up in my work, it's often in quite a sort of bittersweet, lamenting what could have been and probably will never be. You know, I'm always going to have a very strange relationship with it as a country, because, you know, when I went there, it was a culture shock. It was like how any white British person, well, it's not like how a white British person would respond to going to Uganda. If anything, they might assimilate better than me because they don't have an expectation that they should feel like they belong there, right? Whereas in theory, I should go there and feel like, oh, you know, I'm back to my roots, or this is where I belong. That's not how I felt. And, you know, there was a real shame in that. So it's not something that comes in my work like, yeah, I'm repping Uganda. Because I'm like, who am I to rep Uganda? Like, I don't, you know, that would feel very fraudulent as far as I'm concerned. And I want to reiterate, that's not a shame thing. I'm not ashamed at all. But like, if anything, I'm ashamed of myself. You know, it's something that I need to work through, definitely. And I definitely want to build my own relationship with the country on my own terms, and in a way that doesn't deny how I've grown up and the fact that this is my home. As critical as I am of Britain and the many grievances I have with it, it is my home. It's the only place I know. you know, I need to find a way of relating to Uganda that acknowledges all of that, because there's no point me trying to pretend like, yeah, this is me, I'm, you know, I'm like you guys. Like, obviously not. I'm obviously not like other Ugandans, and that's okay. Like, I've just got to forge my own sense of attachment or belonging that accounts for all of the experiences I've had.
You know what, to be honest with you, hearing you talk about that is, I'm actually interested to hear more discussion around that, because I know for a fact you're not the only person that feels that way. Because even me, as someone that spent 10 years there, you know, and obviously I did leave when I was 10 years old, so I hadn't built up, I guess, a personality yet. So, you know, the majority of my years have been spent in Britain. But even me, as someone who spent a sizable amount of years in Uganda, I still feel a similar way to you. I still feel like when I'm going, the first time I went there on my own terms, there was a sense of like, ooh, like,
oh, he's Mzungu now.
Yeah, like people said that about me. Like they would even say, you know, I went to a shop once and I was trying to speak Luganda, you know, and the lady was like, "Oh, what is you speak Luganda like a baby, you know?" And this is and no shade to babies, because, you know, I'm sure there's Ugandan babies out there that speak it better than me, but like that was in 2016, and then in 2020, early this year, I went back, and I guess I'd acknowledged the fact that, listen, I'll never be as Ugandan as my cousins. I'll never speak it as well as they do, because they've spent their whole life there. But what I will do is I will embrace and have my own relationship to Uganda that's on my own terms, just like you said. When I went there, it actually changed it completely, because I didn't have the insecurity of thinking, oh shit, people are going to know that I'm a fake Ugandan, or they're going to hear my Ugandan laugh. I didn't care if they laughed. I didn't care. In fact, I laughed at me first, or I would make jokes about, you know, their attempts at trying to speak in a British accent or whatever. So having that kind of self-assurance, one of my aunties in the village, she was like, wow, you speak Luganda like a Ugandan now. And I was purely just because I just threw away the pressures of trying to be Ugandan. And you know what I mean? And I feel like some of the people that I've spoken to so far, some of my past guests, we're all in the same boat. Like, I'm sure there's one guest, the episode came out today because we're recording on Friday. And I'm sure she was probably looking at me thinking, oh, she's a little bit more Ugandan than me because she went to school longer than I went to school in Uganda. And then I would see another guest and I'll be like, oh, well, I'm more Ugandan than them because I actually spent 10 years there. And it's all this Ugandan Olympics of who's most Ugandan, you know what I mean? And it's like, at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. We've all spent time in Britain. We all also have a little bit of a trouble speaking the language, whatever the language is. And when we go to Uganda, people still look at us like we're British. So why don't we just like embrace that and just don't let it kind of override our relationship with Uganda? That's what I think personally.
It's tough because we want belonging to be a simple thing. You know, I think it's inherent in the whole idea of belonging. When you belong somewhere, you don't have to question, you don't have to overthink. It's like, oh, this is where I belong. But, you know, I think everybody, and, you know, you learn this as a poet when you write stuff that speaks to any sense of outsiderness, and you feel like it's such a specific thing and that you're the only person who's ever felt the way you felt. And then you realize real quick, everybody has outsider complex for whatever reason. And certainly second gen kids have outsider complex about all sorts of stuff. Like, I feel like Blackness generally is so tied up with a sense of outsiderness because we are outsiders to white people. And then if we go outside of any ideas of prescriptive Blackness, we're also being policed by people in our community. And there's just so many levels of outsiderness that we're trying to navigate. And at some point, you've got to just cut yourself some slack. Because often the people that will give you the hardest time about the fact that you don't fit in are also the ones that like feel it the most. And the way that they try to redress that balance is to police other people and start talking about you don't belong, or you're not doing this, you're not wearing the right thing, you're not saying the right thing. No one who's happy in themselves is running around trying to police how everybody else is, you know? and that's not to be critical of those people. I'm sure that, you know, they're just saying things innocuously, but yeah, I don't take it to heart the way I used to, because as you say, you get older and you start to know yourself and you start to be kinder and more forgiving of yourself and realize that you are who you are because of a myriad of circumstances and things that you didn't choose. You know, we didn't choose to be born here. We didn't choose to be born at all, in fact. So, you know, it's just like, just cut yourself some slack, you know? Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, now we got 14 minutes to go. So let's move on to the last part of the episode. And this is the part that people start sweating. So get ready.
Okay, all right. Okay. I'm perspiring. Let's go.
Perspire. All right. So this is the Proper Ugandan quiz with our special guest, Vanessa Kisuule. Okay. Question 1. All right.
Okay.
What is the name of the famous Archbishop of York?
I know this.
Know this. You gotta know this one. Come on. You went as well because you knew it. Come on.
So upset. Oh no, it's not. No, it's too far back in the recesses of my brain. No, I can't do it.
And you know
no. That's he's South African. I was gonna say Desmond Tutu, but he's South African. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's there. You can see him wearing.
Yeah, I really can. And the purple. Yeah,
the purple thing. Yeah, you could see him, and I'm wearing the purple thing as well. So it's like
I don't know it.
That's all right.
Is that the easiest question? Is that the easiest question in the quiz?
It depends what you mean by easy, because there might be a few other ones where you're like, I'm supposed to know that.
Okay, yeah, I did. That one has. You've lost me.
That's all right. He watches this podcast and he's gonna pray for you tonight. No, I'm joking. The answer to what is the name of the famed Archbishop of York is John Sentamu.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it's all right. He forgives you.
Is it though? Is it all right? I don't know.
It's okay. Question 2. What part of Uganda do you find the Busoga tribe, or rather the Basoga tribe?
I don't know. And that one I really don't know. And let me
guess.
tell you why. My dad literally talks about Buganda tribe, and that's it, because he's like, we're the best. I never hear about any of the other ones.
Oh man, yeah, that's that Buganda. Listen, that's that Buganda kind of, what do you call it? The Buganda arrogance. We just have that. That's all we ever talk about. You'd think Uganda's just made out of Buganda.
Yeah, it's embarrassing because obviously it's, you know, the tribalism and all of the problems that come from that. I'm always like, this is the problem. It's people thinking that they're better than everyone else. But yeah, exactly. My dad has literally never implied that there's any other tribes. I'm aware that there are other tribes now from my own reading, but I couldn't place where that tribe you mentioned is from. I'm sorry.
Well, little do the Baganda know that actually we were put in charge by the
British
colonizers. Yeah, the Brits. They put us in charge. We were a much smaller tribe to another tribe, I think the Banyoro, and they put us in charge and then named the country after our tribe. But actually, so you find the Basoga tribe or the Basoga people in the eastern part of Uganda.
You should have told me that I had the option of like north, south, east, or west. I could have had a quarter chance to get it right.
I was about to tell you. I was about to say that. I know I'm a terrible quiz master.
It's okay.
But that's all right. This one, please, Vanessa, tell me you're going to get this one because this is in your field, right? So George the poet is a Ugandan British poet. But what is his last name? You better not say the poet.
I don't know.
Your fellow poet, your fellow Ugandan poet's last name?
I'm so sorry. I don't know. It's the poet. That's what's on his birth certificate, the poet.
You think that's his name? You think, hey, Mr. the Poet, come here.
I don't know. What is it?
All right, the answer is Mpanga.
Oh, I knew that. Yeah.
That's the thing. We all know it, but they don't mention it.
You always know it in retrospect, lol.
Yes.
Okay.
I made this quiz really hard, you know. I'm just Yeah. I made it really hard. I'm not gonna lie, so I apologize. Okay, 2 more.
Okay.
Questions, right? Question 4. Katiti Chironde made history in August 1968. What did she do?
Let me try, guess.
Because
First female MP, politician.
oh, you were kind of close. I thought when you said first, it is making history, but she's actually became the first black woman to appear on the cover of a fashion magazine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Glamour magazine. It was in 1968, August 1968.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
So this is question 5. Final question.
I've got 0
What year
out of 4. Okay, yeah, cool. Let's go.
You've got 0 out of 4 so far, but
0.
this one could
Nil
get you. Nil point. Okay. All right. What year did Uganda first receive the missionaries?
A missionary? What's a missionaries?
The missionaries. The first missionaries that came.
Oh, okay.
What
okay.
year did we first receive them? You can make a guess. You can make a guess with this one. Educated guess.
Yeah, educated is where I'm slipping. This is so embarrassing. Look at me embarrassing myself. Wow. And do you want to know what makes this even worse? I'm literally reading this at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Written by a white man, so make of that what you will. But it was the only book I could find online that was like a comprehensive book about Uganda, and I knew I needed to school up. But anyway, I think I probably read in here when the first missionaries came, but I can't remember the date. The only date I remembered was when Uganda became independent. So let me think.
Remember, it's the year. You just need the year. We don't need like the time. Yeah.
Okay. Like the 1948.
Oh.
Is that really bad? Is that a terrible guess?
It's 1877.
Oh, wow. That's wow.
Yeah.
We were subjugated long time.
Oh, yeah, they came early. They said, let's hit them first. Let's go there early. Yeah, 1877.
Wow.
Which I thought was a bit later than I would have expected, but it's 1877 apparently. So okay. I got it from a journal. There's a journal that talks about it, and there's also a website. So anyone who wants to know the source, just email me and I'll send you the source in it. But yeah, so that's it. No worries.
This is no worries. I'm worried.
Well, let me tell you why you should be worried. Let me tell you why you shouldn't be worried. Because I didn't know any of this stuff, with the exception of maybe question 1, question 4, or maybe question 3 as well. But that's because
you knew 3 out of 5 is your point.
Yeah, but that's because I'm Googling this stuff. Researching stuff. So that's fine. Don't worry. And there's people.
How did the other guests do?
I mean, no one's yet to get 5 out of 5.
No, so being diplomatic. Did anybody else get 0?
Did anyone get 0? No, I don't think anyone's got 0 yet. I think you're beating that. You're in the league. That's an achievement.
Setting trends, setting records. That's very embarrassing.
No, don't worry. Okay. We got 5 more minutes. We've got to end with a fact of the week and word of the day. I don't know if you managed to get a fact of the week, but if you didn't, I did. So,
okay.
Did you manage to get one?
Oh, no, I didn't. But please do share one. I'd love to learn something.
All right. So apparently, almost 1/4 of Uganda's GDP comes from agriculture.
Okay. That's
which
cool.
makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I like that.
And then the word of the day. Actually, I'm going to change the word of the day because this is.
Oh, wait. Actually, I do have a word.
Oh, okay.
I thought of it now. It always makes me think of my stepdad, Impewo. He always say that. And I love that word because he'd always say it about things that were just stupid. He'd be like, oh, it's just full of impel. And and he explained it to me. He's like, oh, it's like air. And he'd always say that. Like, I remember when I came home with like one of those Starbucks like frappes, and he's like, that's full of impel. And I was just like, that's really funny.
Yeah.
I like that word.
It's a good word. It's impel, wind, air. It's a good word. I'm gonna change my word of the day to ebigambo, which is word. And I changed it to words, as in like to write words. And I changed it because obviously I'm interviewing a poet, and I think it's a fitting word, you know, ebigambo, and that's words, and that's you deal with words, you play with words, and and mum's the word. So thank you Vanessa for taking the time out. I really appreciate it. And you came back for 2 days as well. This is part 2, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
You need to cut out the quiz bit though, yeah, because I'm putting shame on my family. Well, my family are gonna excommunicate me if they hear this.
Listen, you know what you should do? You should probably try and get them to answer it. Like,
that's true. Can you send me all the questions? I'm going to see if they know the answers.
I'll do that. I'll send it to you as soon as we come to this. But but thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.